Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, July 21st edition of the MMA OB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my co-host here, Cole Shelton. Cole, like the summer's going by, man. July 21st already? Jeez. We just finished technically it's the third Fight Island event, although the second Fight Island hashtag, and now we have the fourth and final one, at least of July. There's still a chance there could be more events in August, September. It's hard to say what's going on right now. Like, as far as that event goes next week, right now, me and you are tentatively scheduled to preview that card next Tuesday, Cole, but we think it's going to be Vegas. We have no idea. So, honestly, looking ahead at August is really tough right now, but we'll just stick to this card and the last one here for today's show. So, Cole, lots to talk about, man. A lot to talk about today. We're going to do the recap for Fight Island 2, and then we'll do the full preview, all 15 fights for UFC Fight Island 3, which, by the way, I'm sure you saw Ariel's tweet. It's the most fights in UFC history, tied with UFC 2. And I don't even think all those fights were televised either. Like, I think some of them were dark matches. So, yeah, I mean, that's 26 years ago. It was 1994. I checked today. So it's a long time. It's going to be a lot of fights. Should be a long night, a good night, I think, but a long night. I'm glad they are starting the card at 8 p.m., Cole. I love that, man. That's what they should do going forward. I think you're going to agree with me on that one.
Yeah, that Saturday's card, it was over before 11 o'clock. Like, perfect. It still allows people. I know you can't go to like bars or stuff right now, but at least you do it in the future, and it still allows people where they can still watch and they can still go out on a Saturday night. Because that's a lot of problem where a lot of my friends, they like going out on Saturday nights, but they're like, I'm not staying in until midnight to watch a UFC card. Like, so I think if cards would be over by 10:30, 11, I think they'd gain a lot more viewers just because then you still have some of the night to go out as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I was your age, that was my situation too. I'm like, I have to watch these cards and I love them, but I also want to go. So luckily I was able to go to a lot of bars back in the day and watch fights too, which, was the perfect combo. But I mean, for like the last bunch of years, at least, Cole, I've been covering them pretty much at home, which I don't mind. I mean, you're doing the same thing, right? Obviously. Kind of love these fights though, man. It should be a good card. But like I said, we'll start with Fight Island 2 and then we'll go to Fight Island 3. So maybe we'll get some more viewers in here and some questions and stuff. Let's talk about this card here, Cole. Honestly, a pretty good card, man. All the Fight Island cards have been pretty solid so far. This one was really good. Some nasty finishes. Start with the main event. Deiveson Figueiredo becomes the new UFC men's flyweight champion, defeats Joseph Benavidez. First round technical submission with the rear naked choke. This was just dominance, man. 3 knockdowns. For some reason, UFC stats only says 2 knockdowns. Cole, he got knocked out 3 times, 100%. Anyone watch that fight knows that. So those stats are really wonky to me, by the way. But 3 near submission attempts, and then finally gets the rear naked choke. And man, Benavidez, that angle he got the choke, Cole, was so nasty. Like the way his spine was twisted and his neck was just choked out cold. So Mark Goddard got in there quickly, but a little bit too late. So yeah, Figueiredo, dominant performance here, Cole. Give me your thoughts on his performance, man. He looked incredible.
Yeah, this was like, you could make a case for a 10-7 there if it went. That was. There was not 1 second of that round that Benavidez had success in. Like, Figueiredo knocked down 3 times, had 3 like solid, like look deep rear naked choke attempts. Somehow Benavidez got out, but that third one, or maybe third or fourth, I don't even remember how many submission attempts there were. But that last one was so tight. Like, and Benavidez doesn't even tap, just goes out. Like, that was dominant from Figueiredo. Showed the weight in the head, but had no impact because he did even better the second time around.
Yeah, that first fight obviously had some controversy, although I feel like they played it up a lot too, just to get the rematch. I mean, let's be honest. Had he not missed weight, they probably wouldn't have did the rematch, in my opinion. Either way, he gets the job done, Cole. No controversy this time around. Figueiredo is the legitimate champion here of this division. And, of course, he goes and calls out Henry Cejudo and Demetrius Johnson. Those fights aren't happening. Realistically, I think Askar Askarov, who won earlier on the card, could get the shot, or Brandon Moreno. Both those guys make sense to me, Cole. I know they're not like big, sexy fights, but they're fun fights. And I think Figueiredo right now is proving to be a real force, man. Other than that loss to Formiga, which really still surprised me when you look back at it. There could be a guy like that who just grapples him. But as far as like striking goes, I don't see anyone being able to stand and bang with this guy because he clearly has the most power in this division, Cole. And to me, he might be the hardest pound-for-pound puncher in the sport right now. I mean, what he did in this fight was incredible. So what do you think's next for him?
I think there's someone that you didn't mention. I think you go Alex Perez. Because,
yeah, I didn't mention him. He's number 5.
Because Perez and Moreno both coming off wins of Formiga, but Perez finished them. And then if you do Alex Perez, it gives you the opportunity to, on the same card, have Askarov Moreno too, because they fought to a draw.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just me more. I just want to see that fight again. So I want to see them rematch. But I think it makes sense. I think it's one of those three. You can put in whoever, and I don't think any fans would complain and say, oh, this guy deserves the shot. They're kind of all equal in my mind. Like, if they give it to Askarov, I wouldn't complain. If they give it to Moreno, I wouldn't complain. If they give it to Perez, I wouldn't complain. It's all. But I think Figueiredo is going to be the champ for a long time. Like, his power for 25 is insane.
I'm pretty sure he's 19-1 now, if I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
11 wins by stop. No, 16. Yeah, 19-1 with 16 wins by either knockout or submission. So I mean, this guy is he's an absolute stud, man. He really is. But yeah, I think your idea sounded pretty solid to me, Cole. I wouldn't mind that fight against Alex Perez. That's a fight that makes sense to me. So I'd watch that one. By the way, that Moreno Askarov fight, I don't know how that didn't win fight. I know Esparza Grasso on the same card was like a pretty good women's fight. Moreno and Askarov was like a tremendous fight here, man.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. That's why I want to see it again. I think you could make the case that to run it back, but maybe the UFC wants to hold on to that and run it back once one of them are possibly a champion. So I could see them not want to run it back right now, but it was a draw, so it makes sense to run it back.
Yeah, and for Benavidez, obviously a lot of like support coming his way. People talking about him being maybe like the best non-champion ever. I mean, it's possible. He's up there for sure, I think. Great guy, obviously. I feel like more people are talking about him losing than Figueiredo like winning. So I think Figueiredo should get way more credit from this win and the other win too, actually. But no doubt Benavidez is a great fighter. I saw your article on MMA News, Cole. So that was a good piece you guys should check out. But what's next for him? I mean, it's hard to say. He could, if he wanted to, he could retire. I don't think he will because he's a competitor. I think he'll stick around. I don't know what he does, though. Does he stay 125? Does he move back to 135 where he did have a lot of success in the past before flyweight was created? Possibly. I don't know. Like, is it worth cutting down to 125 just to fight guys that are honestly, I mean, if you fought Alexander Pantoja right now, that's a tough fight, man. That's the kind of fight you get. A guy like Askarov, that's a tough fight, Cole. Like, I love Benavidez. Again, one of the best never to win a belt in the UFC, but I kind of feel like his time as a top guy is done, Cole. He's 35 now. He's a flyweight. That's a tough age for that division. You see guys like Eddie Wineland and stuff like that, like the older guys in this division, they're slowing down, man. And Benavidez could be like that too. So what do you think? Do you think he fights again? And it's going to be a 125, 135?
I think it's going to be a 125. But after the event, he's saying he doesn't want to go out like that. And he just wants to end on a win. But that's when you get really dangerous where you lose another one. Then you're like, oh, I'm going again. Then you lose another one. And then all of a sudden you're on like a 4-fight losing streak. And then you just keep on taking this unnecessary damage. Mm-hmm. I hope the UFC just says, we'll give you one more, win or lose. This is it for you. Just to like, he's a guy that's been in a lot of wars. He's taken a lot of damage. Just because that's the thing where I hate about fighters. They go, I want to end off a win. Then all of a sudden they've been knocked out like 3 straight fights in a row. And there's a lot of heavy hitters at 125. I think Benavidez would be in trouble. Like a Kai Kara France hits really hard. A Tyson Nam hits really hard. Like there's a lot of guys that I think would be problems for him. So I'd want to see the UFC set him up with a favorable matchup. Someone to like lower down the rankings, just get him a win, and then he can ride off in his sunset and a win.
Yeah, I don't know who it'd be. I mean, for me, it would be perfect, but he's already, I think, beat him twice, right? So I don't know, man. There's not many two veterans in this division. Like it's a lot of younger guys. Up and coming guys. Tyson Nam, I think, is the oldest guy at 36. But that could be a tough matchup. Benavidez. He probably would be favored just based on his body of work, Cole. But after that knockout win over, I can't remember the guy's name, but the newcomer guy that Nam knocked out in like the devastating fashion, like man, that'd be a reckless fight. I think for Benavidez' take. I don't think he'll take that fight, Cole. So I'm serious. I think 135 could be the move because there's a lot more older guys in that division. Like Eddie Wineland, I mean, that'd be a fun fight, like a WEC fight. Like that'd be a good retirement fight, possibly for both guys too. Cool, something like that. Maybe I mean, this is kind of crazy. How about a rematch with Dominic Cruz? Like Cruz is old. He didn't look great in his last fight, in my opinion. And I mean, I'm sure he'd be favored to win that fight, but it'd be interesting. They had a really good fight back in the day in WEC. Anyways, let's go through the rest of the card here, Cole. Next up, we had Jack Hermanson defeat Kevin Gastelum with the heel hook. He didn't get a bonus, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But, I mean, when you have, like, special performances like this, why not just give an extra bonus? Like, how do you not give him a bonus? I don't get it. Anyways, he looked great, and he called out the winner of Till Whittaker. I don't know if he gets that fight. I still feel like the winner of that fight probably gets the next title shot just based on name value. We'll talk about that fight in 40 minutes from now or so. But yeah, I mean, for Hermansson, it sets him up for a big fight. He obviously lost to Cannonier before this, so he even said, I think Cannonier should be next for the title shot. He should be, Cole, but I'll be honest, like I feel like Cannonier, I don't know how much the UFC like views him as like a star. I think if Till or Whittaker, if Till wins that fight, I think he'll get the shot. So Cannonier, based on his body of work at middleweight, should get it. I don't know if he does, but as far as Hermansson goes, I mean, clearly a top, I guess, borderline top 5 guy. Really, when you think about it, Cole.
Yeah, I think I think you could do Cannonier. I think Cannonier versus the winner of Whittaker Till makes a lot more sense than Hermansson. Just because Cannonier, I think he's gonna need one more win, especially if Till wins, or if Whittaker wins. I don't think they're gonna give Whittaker Adesanya right away. Whittaker Cannonier is supposed to fight at 248, so you could easily just run that back and then just say winner of that gets a title shot.
Yeah,
I think for Hermansson, like maybe you do like the winner of Yoel Romero, Uriah Hall, or maybe like Edmund Shabazi and Derek Brunson winner. I still think he needs a few more wins before he gets to that top 3 that he's talking about, just because he got knocked out Cannonier in his last fight. I still think he needs probably 2-3 more wins.
Yep, I agree with that. Just going down the rest of the card here, Cole. Next fight, man, what a fight. Rafael Fiziev picks up the upset win here over Mark Diakiese. Unanimous decision call. I mean, great fight. He won the first 2 rounds. I think he lost the last one, but the first 2 rounds were like, man, some of these body kicks this guy threw were just absolutely devastating. The sound you could hear, because there's no fans in the audience, you could really hear those kicks. I love this fight, Cole. I'll be honest, man. I was just like, wow, this is why I love MMA, for fights like this. What do you think of this fight, man?
Yeah, this fight was amazing. Fiziev, the way he blocks those kicks, just like leaning back, like, oh my, this guy is something special. Put him in against any striker at 155, and you're in for a great fight.
Like I was saying on Twitter, I mean, dream fight, Edson Barboza against this guy. I don't know if it happens because Barboza, he's kind of like at that crossroads of his career. I don't think he'd take this fight, but man, that'd be a fun fight to watch. We should get to some comments here from Kenshiro. Benny fought the same way 14 years. He could easily wrestle and clinch Figueiredo, but he kept his usual stand-up routine, which got figured out by everyone already. Yeah, I agree. I mean, he did the same thing in the first fight, Cole, and I was like, okay, maybe he can make the adjustment and just go to his wrestling, but I don't even think it would work, man. I think Figueiredo would have shoved him off and just outstruck him anyways. Benny too old and slow for his usual fighting style, just like Dominic Cruz got old and slow too. There you go. Do that fight. Straight wager. What's going on? If Tyson is too dangerous for him, he should retire. Nam could have been caught with a loss his last fight. I think Benavidez probably is the favorite against Tyson Nam based on his body of work, but that's a dangerous fight, man, just based on styles, because if Benavidez keeps it on the feet, he could get knocked out in brutal fashion yet again. I think his chin's gone, Cole. I'll be honest, man. The way he got dropped in this fight, I think his chin's gone. He's been around forever, man. He's been fighting for a long time.
That first one didn't even look
I know.
It was just like a little quick cross right, and it just put him down. And then after that, it was like every single time Figueroa landed his right hand, he was not on knocking him down.
Yeah, no, for sure. Next fight in the card, Ariane Lipski defeats Luana Carolina. Man, this knee bar, nastiest knee bar I think I've ever seen in MMA. Devastating. I know that Carolina, I think she tore her meniscus in her knee. She'll be out for a while, man. I mean, this was brutal. So a huge win for Lipski, Cole. I did like her in this fight. I'll be honest. I thought Carolina, just stylistically, this was a great fight because I thought I was going to stay on the feet and she was going to strike her. I didn't see the fight going to the mat.
Well,
getting the knee bar from that calf slice. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. So she deserved a bonus, man. She got it and well-deserved. And I know she's kind of struggled in the UFC a little bit with a 2-2 record, but I think she's kind of putting it together now, Cole. And dude, she's got all the makings of a star, man. She's a really good-looking chick. She can fight. Like, this is the kind of fighter the UFC wants. With her and Amanda Ribas, like, the UFC women's division in Brazil is great. So I was really impressed by Lipski, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought this was a stand-up fight.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really close fight, but man, I did not expect a knee bar by Ariane Lipski. But this is what they need to do. They need to give her girls like this. Like, her first 2 fights were Joanne Calderwood and Molly McCann. Like, those are way too high step ups. They need to slow build her because I still think she could be someone that gets ranked in the UFC eventually. But they need to give her these fights. Like, her last 2 fights, like, you can't just be rushing her just because that's what the UFC does. Like, they try to rush Paige Van Zandt. They try to rush all these girls that they think can be stars. But you just got to slow build them because in the long run, it'll pay off more than just trying to rush them right up to the top.
Yep, I agree with that. Just going through the rest of the card here, Cole, because you actually have 15 fights to break down in a few minutes. Askarov defeats Pantoja. Decision. I thought he deserved it.
Yeah.
Gave him the last 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. So he looked good. Great fight. I should have mentioned Fiziev and DKSC obviously won fight of the night. They deserved it. Going down to the prelims, though, Dolidze against Ibrahimov. He went for a kick and knocked the guy out with a knee. It was brutal. Poor guy, man. He got knocked out bad. And, like, it felt like no one came to his, like, attention for, like, a few
No, I know.
He was, like, lying there. Like, he got brutally knocked out. Like, no one even went up to him. And then that guy was, like, yelling at him. I mean, you already won the fight, bro. Like, what are you doing? I just don't – after the fight's over, Cole, I kind of don't love this stuff, but it is what it is. It's the fight game. I understand that. So, Dolidze looked good. Dawson defeats Narimani. Thought he'd probably get the finish in this fight, but Narimani's pretty durable. Good submission defense. Was able to go the distance. Dawson, though, is definitely a good prospect if he stays at 145. Next up, big upset here. Joel Alvarez defeats Joseph Duffy. And we both said the line was too long, but I still wouldn't have picked Alvarez. Man, what a great win for this guy. He needed it. 2-1 now in the UFC. Joseph Duffy retires, Cole. Kind of surprising, man. But 3 straight losses. He hasn't won a fight in 3 years. So he retires. 4-4 overall record in the UFC. Honestly, after the first couple fights he had in the UFC, I thought this guy was going to go for a run for the belt. When he beat, I know it was just Jake Lindsay and Ivan George, and they're not good fighters, but the way he ran through those guys and knowing he had a win over Conor not too long before that, a lot of us thought this guy was going to make a run, but never was able to put together. I don't know what happened. I know he went to TriStar. Maybe it wasn't the right camp for him. I have no idea, but retires after this loss here. Any thoughts on those fights?
Yeah, that Duffy fight. Like, I think it's more I think he was going to get cut anyways. I don't think he wanted to fight anywhere else, so that's kind of why he retired. Grant Dawson looked good. I thought he was going to get finished, especially because Mike Grundy finished Narimani. I thought Dawson would be able to submit him. I think in the third round, if he took him down again, he probably would have. But he just, I think, really wanted to work in his stand-up, which if you're that far ahead, it's good. But Brett Johns, too, looked really good. I didn't expect him to beat Montel Jackson. That's a good win for him. He's only lost to those top guys, so he's someone to watch out for at bantamweight.
Yeah, and there's quite the rest of the card. Brett Johns picking up the upset over Montel Jackson. Amir Albazi picking up a nice win over Malcolm Gordon. Armin Tersuki, and this guy looked amazing against Davey Ramos. Like, this guy is so fast, man. He's great to watch. Definitely a guy to look for in this division going forward. And finally, Sergey Spivak defeats Carlos Felipe. Majority decision, terrible heavyweight fight, as we expected, Cole. So, overall, I think it was a great card, though. I mean, that first fight sucked, but after that, it was a really good card, I thought. And, yeah, that Tersukian guy, though, man, he's solid, Cole.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem for down. Like, he's only 23. He got a rough first fight he had Islam Makhachev, but he's looked really good since then.
I agree. Okay, let's get some comments, and then we'll get to the UFC Fight Island 3 15 fights preview. All right, Damon Blackburn, what's up, guys? Hey, Damon, how's it going? Damon had a comment here about Pantoja wouldn't even throw. He was done after he didn't get the subs. Yeah, he did gas himself out a bit, which for a flyweight, it's not great, but Askarov's a tough fight, man. By the way, the line got to like plus 175 for Askarov at close. That was a pick if I picked Askarov. Yeah. I was shocked he got that big of an underdog. Like, as an undefeated guy, it's crazy. Kevin Scott, hey, Kevin. Oh, he asked about well, I'll answer it now anyways. If DC beats Stipe retires, who does Francis fight for the vacant belt? I mean, that's a great question to ask. He's pretty much beaten everyone. Like, I guess a third fight with Blades.
That's what I think. Like, who else? You can't do anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, just try to think, like, who else is really available? Like, over him, he's already knocked him out.
Maybe if Lewis beats Oleinik, maybe do Lewis Francis too.
I do that fight again just because Lewis did win the fight, and that's a fight, was awful to watch, but I think the rematch would actually be better. And Kevin's other question, who's next for Volk at 145? Great question. I mean, obviously, Cater wants it, but I don't think he'll get it. I think it's going to be Korean Zombie, man. What do you think, Cole?
I think it's Korean Zombie too. I don't know why Brian Ortega is still so high ranked. He hasn't fought since December 2018.
It's just weird how like inconsistent that is in the rankings. Like
some people they take out after like 4 months, and then they have Ortega who's coming into like almost two years at the end of this year.
I know Cruz was in there for like 3 years, Cole, after he retired. Even Cain Velasquez was in there for a while. What else here? Ken Shiro, I had a nice parlay and Brett Johns and Alvarez to be Duffy and live bet the dogs too. Show your bet slips. Let's see those, man. You're always getting these underdogs, dude. Let's see it. All right. We'll get to the UFC Fight Island 3, Cole. Man, 15 fights. It's going to be a long breakdown here, guys, but bear with us. It's going to be fun. I mean, there's some good fights in this card. So let's start with the first fight on the card and work our way up. Should mention 7-fight main card, which is rare. They don't really do that often. UFC 144. That was in Japan. I think that was 7 fights. I'm just checking. I'm pretty sure that was a pay-per-view. Yes, that had 7 fights. That was the same one, the card where Tim Bosch knocked out Okami and Hunt knocked out Congo, Bader, Jackson, Henderson, Edgar, the rematch. By the way, just quickly, when you talk about Holloway potentially getting a rematch after the 2 straight losses, right? It really reminds you, if you look back at Edgar versus Benson Henderson, because he lost the first fight kind of clearly. The second fight, a lot of people thought Edgar won, just like Holloway, but they didn't give him another title shot. But they did let him fight for the belt, I think, at 145 against Aldo. So Max is a guy that UFC loves. Maybe at some point, especially if Khabib retired. I'm not saying he should retire, but if he chose to, I think it's on the table, honestly. Considering his dad just died, he's already rich. He made 60 million last year. Does he even need to fight anymore? I don't know. I know he's wanted to build his legacy, but if that happens, Max could be a guy that I think could move up at some point and fight for that belt. But that, by the way, that just reminded me of Edgar and Henderson. But getting to this card here, start with the opening fight on the card. It is a bantamweight bout between Nathaniel the Prospect Wood and John Castaneda. And right now we have Nathaniel Wood is a favorite at minus 425, and Castaneda is plus 340. He took the fight on short notice. Cole, who's your pick for the first fight of UFC Fight Island 3?
I think you have to go with Nathaniel Wood. That last one, tough loss to John Dodson, but look at before that. Submitted Quinones, submitted Andre Ewell. All he does is submit guys, submit Johnny Eduardo. And he has some good knockout wins in Cage Warriors. John Castaneda's taking this fight on short notice. He's a guy that probably should have been in the UFC before. He had some good wins in Combate. He beat Gustavo Lopez. He's on a big winning streak. And then but he's 1-2 in his last 3 fights. He lost to Jose Alde, which is one of Combate's top guys. But I just think Wood is going to be the better everywhere. I think he's going to take this down to the ground. I think he'll be able to submit Castaneda or just a ground pound TKO. I know Castaneda's only been finished once, but I just think Wood is a lot better than anyone's Castaneda's faced.
Yeah, you got to go with Nathaniel Wood here, obviously. I mean, the guy's still a top prospect. He had a tough loss, though. That loss surprised me, I'll be honest. That's one of the more surprising losses, I think, this year. I thought for sure he'd beat John Dodson at that point of his career, but got knocked out. Having said that, Cole, before that, he had won 8 straight fights with some really nice wins over guys like Eduardo and Ewell, who are solid fighters. Stopped them. Most of his wins are by stoppage. He's still young, man. He's only 26. So this is a guy that is still going to go far, I think, in the UFC. The loss to Dodson does worry me, but I still think this is going to be way too much for Castaneda. We got to keep in mind he was supposed to fight Umar Nurmagomedov. That would have been a much tougher fight, I think. I probably would have picked Umar to win that fight. Most people would have, I believe. But Castaneda, 17-4 record, Cole here, making his debut on short notice. He's a Combachi guy. He does have a couple notable wins. He beat Gustavo Lopez, who just fought Merab Devalishvili, so that's a solid win. But mostly he's kind of fought lower-ranked guys down in Combachi, King of the Cage. He did fight on RFA with a card headlined by Jay Collier, who's also fighting this card, which is really random. But, Cole, he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. I think this guy's really lucky he's in the UFC right now. He is making some money. I'm glad the guy's got a job again because I don't think Camachi's holding a bet. So, he took the fight on short notice. Good for him. But I can't see this going well for this guy, man. I think Wood probably submits him. I know he's only been knocked out once. He's never been submitted, but I think Wood could probably get him to the ground and tap him out, Cole. So that's kind of where I'm leaning here with this fight. Daniel Wood by stoppage. Having said that, minus 425 is a hefty price to pay for a guy that just got knocked out in his last fight. So you got to think about it. I know people will probably just parlay him anyways, but he should win, Cole. I'm just saying, you never know. I mean, that's the thing with the sport. It's so unpredictable. All right, next up, we have a welterweight bout between Ramazan Emeev and Nicholas Stolze, who's also making his UFC debut. And right now, Emeev, a big favorite, minus 380. Stolze, plus 315. Who's your pick?
I have to go with Ramazan Emeev, but I don't love these odds. I wouldn't bet this at this price. I think all the value is on Stolze. Emev's had fought since November last year, lost to Anthony Rocco Martin. But he does have some good wins, like Anatoly Tokov, Sam Alvey. He's beaten some okay guys, but Stolze, obviously UFC debut. I'm pretty sure he's taking this fight on short notice because was Rachmanov was supposed to be Emeev's original opponent. So I just think Emeev's a bit better everywhere. I think he'll get a decision win, but I don't think you can lay the chalk on him.
again, a hefty price to pay for a guy that should win the fight. But the thing about these, we were talking about it like in a DM call the other day. These cards right now are tough to pick because there's a lot of these newcomers we have no idea about, and there's not much tape available on these guys, and they come in the UFC and they look amazing. Like Adesanya, who did have tape. I didn't think he looked that great in tape. He looked incredible in his UFC debut. So this guy Stolze, I mean, you look at his record, 12-3. It's not great by any means, but Cole, I mean, it's a guy on a 4-fight win streak, and he's mostly finishing his opponents. Who knows? Maybe he comes in here as a great performance, man, against Meeb. I doubt it, though. I mean, Meeb is solid, 18-4. He, before losing to Rocco Martin, had won 3 straight fights in the UFC, including a fight against Sam Alvey at middleweight. So he's a guy that's bounced back between 175 and 185, but seems to have settled on 170. I mean, you look at the body of work, he has a much better body of work. He's fought better competition. He's gotten some decent wins, but he is 33, Cole, a little bit older, so who knows? I mean, he's 6 years older. Like, that definitely plays a factor in these fights, guys. So definitely a Meeb. I'm going to pick him here, Cole. He probably, I think, grinds out. Stolze just outpoints him, wins a decision here, but you're kind of playing with fire by, I think, betting at minus 380 because we don't know much about Stolze. And right now, it's like I said, guys, there's a lot of guys fighting on short notice, and they have nothing to lose. They're coming in here and having great performances. This could be a spot like that, but my pick's still going to be a Meeb by decision. All right, next up, we have a women's bantamweight fight between Betch Correia and Pannie Kianzad. I think probably the weakest fight in the card, but we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe it could be fun. I mean, if they just stand and bang, it could be entertaining. But right now, we got Kianzad, slight favorite, minus 155. Betch Correia, plus 135. Who's your pick?
Don't bet this fight at all. Like, you can't bet on too low level. Like, this is... I have to go with Pannie Kianzad just because this is more a fate on Betch Correia. I don't trust Betch Correia. She hasn't looked good lately. 37 years old. I know she won her last fight against Jari Eubanks, which was kind of surprising, but before that, lost to Aldana, lost to Holm, draw against Renault, beat a split over Jessica Ira. I think a lot of people thought that he won that fight, and then lost to Rousey Pennington. Mm-hmm. She's been on a slide. Pannie Kianzad just coming off a win over Jessica Rose Clark. Obviously, good to get a win. She's 1-2 in the UFC, so it's hard to bet her. But I just think she's a bit better boxer. I think this fight's going to be a stand-up. I think she can edge a decision, but no way you could bet on either of them.
Yeah, this is a tough fight to call, I think. Honestly, I kind of lean towards Betch. I don't know if I could actually put money on Betch, but I kind of lean towards her here, Cole. I got to be honest. I just think she can outpoint Kianzad win decision. That's kind of how I see the fight going. You look at Korea's losses, Cole, they're nothing to really write home about. It's like Irene Aldana, Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington, and Ronda Rousey. 4 of, like, arguably the best women's fighters in the sport now and before. So they're not bad losses. Her wins aren't great, though. But, you know, coming off the win over Eubanks, that was a solid win for her, Cole. And I think she showed good form in that fight. Kianzad, I haven't been impressed with her at all in the UFC. She did come off that win over Rose Clark. I did predict her to win that fight, but overall, I mean, to me, she has been kind of disappointing in the UFC over 2 different stints. I don't know. I kind of lean towards Betch to win, like I said, just a decision. But do I have interest in betting on this fight? Not really. I got to be honest, it's tempting, but I don't know, man. You work so hard for your money. Do you really want Betch Correia to be the one riding on? I don't know. Like, that sounds like... All right, heavyweight bout next, Cole. This is a fun one. Tanner Boaster returning really quick after his last knockout win over Philippe Lins against Rafael Pessoa. So he's going to look to knock out another lower level Brazilian heavyweight. And right now we got Boaster, the Bulldozer, minus 250, Pessoa plus 210. Who's your pick?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Both of them, they're both only UFC losses. Artesiel gone, both went distance. Pessoa got submitted. But I know Boaster didn't get much of a camp just because when he got back to Canada, he had to quarantine 2 weeks. So I know he's saying to James he only got about 3 days, but really, that doesn't really impact me that much because I'm still picking Tanner Boaster just because he had that full camp with Philippe Lins. He had a fight against Philippe Lins, so he was already in shape. And then he said he was just running around in the park and whatnot, but that's what he said. He said he's been a fighter for so long, all he needs is his cardio, and I think his cardio is still going to be there. I think he's going to really attack the leg kicks like he normally does. I don't expect him to finish Rafael Pessoa. I think this fight's going the distance, but I suspect Tanner Boaster will edge a decision because I think this fight's going to be a stand-up fight, and I favor Boaster on the feet.
After that last fight, you have to fear Boaster. He looked great against Lins, man. That was a nasty knockout, just really good striking technique. And we know he, for a heavyweight, has good cardio, good durability. there's a lot to like about Tanner Boser. That loss to Gon was somewhat competitive. Cole. I mean, Gon is a guy I'm really high. I know you are too, Cole. Pessoa, he obviously had the loss to Gon as well, but he did surprise against Jeff Hughes. He won that fight. A lot of people counted him out. I didn't think he'd win. He won that fight. Jeff Hughes is not anything special at this point, but at one point was a really solid prospect. Other than that, I mean, this guy is knocked out almost everyone he's fought. So it's a heavyweight bout. You always have a risk of knockout. And Boser has been KO'd before. Tim Hague, the late Tim Hague, knocked him out. So you never know. I mean, he could get caught, but I think more than likely he just kind of evades the bombs and out kicks this guy, keeps a distance, and then eventually once Pessoa tires, I think he probably moves in and maybe stops him. Cole. It's either going to be a TKO or a decision. It could be decision too. Pessoa is pretty durable. So my pick's going to be Boser. I do like him quite a bit here, Cole. So I think this is a guy you could consider to play. But again, it's heavyweight, guys. So careful because heavyweight fights have a lot of variance and they're not easy to predict. But I like this matchup with Boser quite a bit. I just don't see much to like about Pessoa on the spot. All right, next up, another fight here that's interesting. Featherweights, Movsar Evloev and Mike Grundy. Fun fight, Cole. I think this fight could easily be higher in the card. Really fun fight. Movsar Evloev, minus 195. Mike Grundy, plus 160. Who's your pick?
I'm going with the underdog and Mike Grundy. I just didn't really impress him. Coming off a big knockout win over Ned Armani, and we saw Armani's toughness against Grant Dawson. Evloev's 2 wins this year are Sungwoo Choi and Enrique Barzola. Those are guys I'm not too high on, especially Barzola. It looked like a good one at the time. Now, not so much. He hasn't fought since October of last year. But Grundy was even worse. Like, he hasn't fought in over a year. So both guys are coming off some long layups, which I don't love. But I just think Grundy, he's been a guy in Darren Till's camp. He's been working with Till a lot. I just think his wrestling, Movsar Evloev loves to use his wrestling, but I think Grundy is the better wrestling. We saw him with World Championships. He's a high-level wrestler, and on the feet, he has the power to KO anyone. I think Evloev's whole game plan and how he beats people is to take people down. I don't think he'll be able to do that against Grundy. On the feet, I just think he'll be able to piece him up. I think Grundy will get a decision win here.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to see what happens. I think the winner gets a serious step forward. I would assume at featherweight. Tough fight to call, honestly. I think it's close to a pick'em fight, so really the value probably is on Grundy. So I can definitely see why you're taking him here. I still kind of leave Evloev though, just based on a few things. First off, the age, 26 compared to 33. I think that's a big factor in this fight potentially. The wrestling, I'm really high on this guy's wrestling, man. He can just grind you out. Like, he's not, Kamaev or Habib or anything like that, but he can grind guys out. That's what he's kind of did so far. Pushed him against the fence, just neutralized them. Grundy definitely has more finishing potential, I think, in this fight, but Evloev, he's proven he can go that hard 50 minutes, just push guys against the fence, take them down, beat them up, win decisions, outstrike them a little bit. So close fight, competitive, definitely underdog potential here, but I'm still going to leave Evloev by decision to win the fight. All right, next up. Is it heavyweight? Yeah, it's heavyweight fight. Jake Collier, wow, he's moving up. I'm pretty sure he used to fight at middleweight at one point. Yeah, that's crazy. So Jake Collier against Tom Aspinall here. Jake Collier hasn't fought in 3 years? Yeah, 3 years. Crazy. Aspinall making his debut. And right now we have Aspinall minus 220, Collier plus 180. What do you think of this fight, Cole?
I think you have to go with Aspinall. Collier hasn't fought since November 11th of 2017. He's used to be a middleweight, moved up to light heavyweight. And he went 1-1, lost to Devin Clark, and beat Marcel Fortuna, which is not a good win. Aspinall's been looking good on Cage Warriors, 3 straight finish wins. He does have a loss. His last loss because he threw an illegal elbow, but I just don't like Collier moving up from middleweight to heavyweight. I think he's going to be – we've seen guys move up to heavyweight, and they have that gut, and they don't look as physically good, and their cardio's there. Especially not fighting for 3 years, you don't really know what Collier is going to get. So I'll take Aspinall. I'll even pick Aspinall to get a TKO win.
Yeah, you got to lean toward Aspinall, I believe, in this fight as well. Just based on, first off, you have to fade Collier coming off a 3-year layoff. I mean, that's standard in this sport, man. You fade guys coming off long layoffs. So that's a knock against him. He's a little bit older as well. Aspinall, though, he's not really proven in the UFC yet, though. Like, Collier does have 3 wins in the UFC. So he's proven to hang with lower-level guys. But, again, 3-year layoff, moving up to heavyweight. There's too many things going against him here that I can't pick him. But, again, Cole, low-level heavyweights. Aspinall, I've heard really good things about. He has won his last 3 fights. He knocks all his opponents out. But who knows? I mean, maybe he comes in here and he gets upset. So it's a heavyweight fight between 2 low-level guys. I mean, you're, again, playing with fire a little bit, but I still got to go with Aspinall. I think he does win the fight. Probably knocks out Collier, if I had to guess. But, I mean, we'll see, Cole. Should be interesting to watch. If Aspinall does win, though, and it's impressive, he's a guy the UFC could kind of push forward quickly because they need like a heavyweight from that region. That'd be nice for the English fans to have someone like that. All right, next up, we got interesting fight here at welterweight between your boy Jesse Ronson and Nicholas Dalby. Right now, we got Dalby minus 265, Ronson plus 225. Who's your pick?
I think Dalby will win this fight, but I don't love the odds. I think Jesse Ronson's a live dog here. We've seen him have a lot of success. Like, he's a guy, look at his first UFC run. 0-3, but he lost split decisions to Michel Prazeres, Francisco Trinaldo, and Kevin Lee. None of those are bad losses. Like, he had a tough time. Since going back to the regional scenes, he had some success. I know he's 1-2 since in his last 3 fights, but he fought Natan Schulte. That fight was made on like 24 hours notice in PFL. And then he went up to welterweight and got knocked out by Alex Shakin. That was another like 2-week notice camp. And then his last one, Troy Lampson, he submitted him in the first round. And Lampson's a guy the UFC's been high on for a while. I think Ronson is live here just because I think his grappling is pretty high level, but I don't love him at welterweight. I think he's better 55er. I think Dalby will be able to impose his will. He'll be the bigger guy. I think he'll be able to edge out a decision. I'll be surprised if Dalby will finish Jesse Ronson, but I think it is possible to get like a late finish, but I have to lean towards Nicholas Dalby here.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jesse Ronson, man, but I think you definitely got to lean towards Nicholas Dalby in this fight, just based on a few different things. I mean, I think he'll, like you said, be a little bit bigger, and I think that definitely is going to play a factor in this fight. He's kind of proven he can kind of grind on guys. The win over Oliveira was pretty controversial in that just the referee stand up in the 3rd round, but overall, I mean, he's undefeated over his last 5 fights. Looked pretty good, knocking a couple guys out there as well. He's a guy that's had quite a bit of experience in the UFC. And Ronson has 2. Ronson making his return to the UFC after 6 years away. Again, you look at the losses he had the first time. Tough losses, man. Prazeres, Trinaldo, Lee. Those are tough losses. It's a guy with a lot of experience. He does have some really nice wins over his career, over a bunch of UFC guys. So he could potentially play spoiler here, Cole, but I feel like Dalby's just going to, like you said, neutralize him and grind a decision out. That's kind of how I see it. If Ronson can keep it standing, he can possibly have some success, but it's hard to pick him here, man, I think. Just especially considering, I know he's coming off that win, Cole, but he had lost 2 straight fights before that too. So, a guy with a 21-10 record, he's a guy that can be beaten, obviously. So my pick, Nicholas Dalby, wins a decision. All right, next up, I think this is the last fight in the prelims. Francisco Trinaldo against Jay Herbert. Great fight. Looking forward to this one quite a bit. Trinaldo minus 170, Herbert plus 150. Who's your pick?
I'm going with the underdog and Jay Herbert here. I've been really impressed with him in the cage wars. He's looked really good on a long winning streak. His only loss is to Reese McKee. We'll talk about him a bit. Since then, he's been on a 6-7 fight winning streak. He finishes a lot of his opponents early. He's had some 1st round finishes, had some 3rd round finishes. And Trinaldo's a guy I just like to fade a little. I know he's on 2-fight winning streak. I don't think he beat Bobby Green. McDessie, Desi's not a really high level. Before that, lost Alexander Hernandez. That was a close fight. He's a guy where I don't think he throws enough, and I think Jay Herbert's going to come in and throw volume. I think he's going to overwhelm Trinaldo, and I just think the volume's going to be the difference here. I think Trinaldo's probably the more powerful striker, but I think Herbert will land more punches and be more active, and I'll just look good in the judges' eyes, and he'll get a decision win here.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I'm going to pick Jay Herbert to win as an underdog as well. I mean, there's some things to like about it. Obviously, first off, the age difference, Cole. 32 against 41. Trinaldo's 41. He's the old man in this division. To be fair, this guy, he's still winning fights, man. So you got to have a lot of respect for Trinaldo. He's been around for a while now. He's a guy that's had a lot of success. He's had some really nice wins. Paul Felder, Jim Miller, Evan Dunham was nice. So he's a guy that's been around and has proven his worth, man. He's like the gatekeeper of the top 15. So I really like Trinaldo, man. He's a guy that he just kind of does his work, man. I know that it's not, especially lately, been that entertaining to watch, but he's still getting his hand raised at this level. So that's impressive. A lot of people thought he beat Alexander Hernandez too. He could easily be on a 4-fight win streak right now. Herbert, though, again, a lot younger and 6-fight win streak, finishing most of his opponents. Or at least one UFC guy in there, King Carrizosa. Not that he was great. That's the thing, though. I mean, level of competition, Cole. That's what scares you a little bit here. I got to pick Herbert just because, again, age, momentum, all that stuff's in his favor. And again, like you said, Trinaldo with that low volume output, it's been winning him fights against other low volume guys, but does it win him this fight? I don't know. My pick's going to be Herbert to win. I think a decision. Charles is really durable, so I think that's what's going to happen. But again, Trinaldo is a legitimate guy in the top 15 or just outside of it. And if he wins, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I just think as a dog, I think there's value in Herbert here because I think it's closer to a pick-up fight call. So that's my pick in that one. All right, next up we have, main card actually. UFC had this fight on 1 week's notice, and Khamzat Chimaev will be taking on Rhys McKee. So Chimaev will have a chance to set a UFC record here with 2 wins within 10 days. Right now, Chas Skelly has the record, 2 wins within 13 days in the modern day UFC, not including the tournaments. But yeah, this should be an interesting fight. Cole, I mean, the betting line says that Chimaev is going to wipe out McKee. Chimaev minus 1,100, McKee plus 700. Who's your pick?
Yeah, and it's interesting too because it's not only that he's fighting twice in 10 days, he's dropping down a weight class as well. He's dropping back down to welterweight, which is natural weight class. You have to go Chimaev. I think he's probably going to finish Rhys McKee, probably first, second round, TKO submission, but you can't lay minus 1,100. You just have to kind of sit back and watch this fight. And because really there's no value because is there props on him?
Look at the inside distance. It was like minus 400 when I checked.
Yeah, so minus 395. Like there's not even value there. So like this is a fight you can't even bet at all. Chimaev should win. You just have to kind of sit back and watch.
Yeah, unfortunately you can't bet it because the line's too high, minus 1,100. I mean, people will still throw him in their parlay, which I think 100% wins. Like this would be the most shocking loss in UFC history, maybe if he loses. I doubt it, man. I think Chimaev probably gets a stoppage in the first round here, but let's say McKee does tough it out. The one prop you could look at, because Chimaev's going to win this fight, Chimaev by decision is plus 525. Can you think of an angle where McKee is able to survive 3 rounds? Maybe. Like, let me look at Khamzat's record here. Like, has he gone distance before? Maybe. Let me take a look. Again, I think he's probably going to stop him, and that's why it's minus 400. Everyone thinks, though. Yeah, he's never been a distance. Most of his wins in the first round. Yeah, I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, if you could think of an angle, because he's going to win for sure, at plus 525, take a shot on the decision prop. That's something to think about. But yeah, Rhys McKee, man, I think he's biting off more than he can chew. Cole. Credit to this guy taking it in a short notice, but especially watching that video where Graham Doylan, I think Cage Warriors president, he's like, "Hey, you got the call up," and he's like, "Who am I fighting?" He's like, first off, he said the guy's name wrong. It's Khamzat, right? And he called him Kazmat or something, and the guy's like, "I don't even know who that is." So that's the bad sign, man. Yeah, it's going to be. I don't have to explain what we're talking about. This Khamzat Chimaev, most likely inside the distance, but again, the odds are really not in your favor to bet that at minus 400. All right, next up we have a welterweight bout between Alex Oliveira and Peter Sabata, and right now the odds for that fight have Alex Oliveira minus 160, Sabata plus 140. Who's your pick?
I went with the underdog Peter Sabata. I know he hasn't fought in 2 years. His last fight was a loss to Leon Edwards, not a bad loss, but I think this is a good style match for him. I think Peter Sabata is just going to try to wrestle early. I think he's a high-level grappler. I think it's him or Gunnar Nelson are probably the best grapplers in Europe in the UFC. I think he'll be able to take Oliveira down. I honestly think he'll be able to even maybe submit Oliveira or maybe TO ground pound him. I just think Oliveira, he's a guy, I think he's slowing down a lot. Like he's on that 3-fight losing streak. Beat Max Griffin. That was a really close fight. I know a lot of people that scored it for Griffin. He's someone, I just don't think he's as dangerous as he used to be. He obviously has a lot of power in his hands, but I just think after the first round, he seems to slow down. I think Sabata can take over. I'll pick Sabata by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sinks in a submission or a TKO win.
Yeah, I mean, I know you interviewed him, and I think he's a good fighter, but I kind of lean towards Oliveira a little bit here. I just think he's a little bit more dangerous, man, especially with the striking. I think that's where Oliveira definitely shines. He's still good in the ground, too. This guy has fought a lot of high-level guys and he's got some good wins, man. Tim Means, Carlos Condit, like those are some solid wins. So this guy's fought, in my opinion, better competition. I know Sabata coming off of the loss of Edwards 2 years ago, Cole. That's a long time to be away. He does have some decent wins. Dalby, Saunders, like decent wins. He's had a couple stints in the UFC as well. I have been impressed by him in his second stint in the UFC. The first stint wasn't good. Second stint's been better. But Oliveira, to me, he's fought better competition. He's a little bit more dangerous. So Oliveira and Sabata, he's been finished a couple times. Yeah, I guess I lean towards Oliveira by knockout here. I think that's kind of have to go. So that's my pick. All right, next up, this is a fight that's not going the distance. Paul Craig against Gadzhimurad Antigulov. Close fight. The odds book have Craig minus 125, Antigulov plus 105. Cole, pick.
I hate picking this guy, but I have to with Paul Craig. I just think the way to beat Paul Craig is to knock him out, and I don't think Antigulov has that knockout power. But he's kind of that submission guy. He beats a lot of guys on the ground. He's really good jiu-jitsu, but I think Paul Craig's probably ground game is a bit better. And we saw him have a draw against Shogun Rua, where he almost finished Shogun Rua, which would have been a good win. I don't think this fight goes the distance. I wouldn't even be surprised if Paul Craig knocks out Andy Gulov, like gets a TKO or then submits him. I think Craig's the better all-around fighter on the feet. I favor him on the ground. I think it's probably a push, maybe a slight lead to Craig, but I would not bet this fight. No way you can lay money on either of these guys.
Yeah, I don't think you can either. Like, how could you be confident in either one of these guys? It's tough. I don't think this fight goes that long. Under 1.5 rounds. I mean, I don't like under 1.5 typically, but I don't see this fight going past the first round, Cole, to be honest. Like, I think they're just going to go throw everything they have in their kitchen sink. And if it does go past first round, Craig probably does get the win. He's proven he can kind of survive late and come back and win. But that's what I don't like about Craig either, man. Like, these wins where he's had, Cole, he was getting just beat up, so except for the Moreira win, but the other fights, Ankalev and Kennedy Nchekwu, like these fights, these are late comebacks after he was getting his ass whooped. Like, I don't see much to like about Paul Craig. I know he did have a competitive fight with Shogun. He looked good in that fight, so I'll give him credit, but Antigua is a very dangerous guy, man, not only with the submissions, but I think with ground and pound too. And I think if this fight stays in the feet, I would give Antigua the edge too, because I think he can just be a little bit more wild and powerful. So gonna go with Antigulov, slight underdog here. That's my pick. It's a fade on Paul Craig. I want to fade both guys. You can't though. So my pick is Antigulov by knockout. That's my pick, Cole. But I mean, this is we'll see what happens, guys. All right, next up, this is a fun fight. Carla Esparza against Marina Rodriguez, women's strawweight bouts. Carla Esparza right now, or sorry, Marina Rodriguez minus 165, Esparza plus 145. Give me your pick.
This is a really close fight. I think this should be a pick'em fight because Marina Rodriguez, like, she has that win over Tisha Torres. If you look, only champions or future title contenders beat Tisha Torres. But there's a clear path to beat Marina Rodriguez, and that's wrestling. We saw Cynthia. That's how she has 2 draws against Reyna Marcos and Cynthia Calvillo. They're just able to out-wrestle and kind of hold her down. Esparza is a really good wrestler, but the problem I have with Esparza is she's kind of falling in love with her hands. We see that happen a lot. Like against Michelle Watterson, all she did was just stand. She stood against Alexa Grasso. Like, this is someone that got – she's on 3-fight winning streak, which is really, like, impressed because after that Suarez loss, when she was on 2-fight losing streak, I thought that was kind of it for her because she got dominated against Tatiana Suarez. But I have a slight lean towards Marina Rodriguez here. I just think she'll use her size to kind of keep the fight standing, use her jab to keep the distance. But I think the underdog here is really live, and I wouldn't be surprised if Esparza pulled out the upset win.
Yeah, when this line came out, I was like, please hold as like a tight line here. Rodriguez opened it. Well, she opened it minus 185, but at one point it was down to like minus 150. I was kind of hoping it'd stay there. Even when it's 165, I still lean towards it though, Cole. I just think at this point, this girl has shown a lot in the UFC where you have to like her quite a bit in this fight. I mean, she's technically only 2-0-2, which is kind of a weird record, but fought increasingly higher level competition. You know, had the draw with Marcos in her debut. That's a solid performance. Beat Aguilar, beat Torres. That win looks good now. Had the close fight with Calvillo, man. That was super close. A lot of people thought she won that fight. So to me, there's a lot to like about her. She's undefeated, like I said, and she's dangerous, man. Her striking is good. Her cardio is good. Now, Esparza, former champion, she's always counted out. Everyone just thinks she sucks, but she wins all these fights, man. 3-fight win streak. She's proven she can hang with the big girls. You know, she's beat Rose. She's beaten Grasso. She's beaten Watterson, Moroz, Calvillo. Like, she's being counted out in this fight. Ansarov's another win she has. Herrig. Like, look at the opposition, man. She's fought the best in the world for a long time. That's what also scares me about her. Like, at this point in her career, she's been taking more damage in her fights. And like you said, Colt, she's mostly a wrestler, but she's kind of been willing to stand and trade. How does that work out here against Rodriguez, who's a very long, rangy striker with a lot of power? So my pick's Rodriguez, man. I think she batters Esparza on the feet, but Esparza is definitely a live dog too because of the wrestling. If she uses her wrestling, she can grind this fight out, especially if she can just like take her down and kind of impose her will. So we'll see what happens. All right, 3 fights left, guys. Long breakdown today. All right, Fabricio Werdum against Alexander Gustafsson, heavyweight fight. Gustafsson minus 340, Werdum plus 280. Wow, crazy odds. Pick.
These odds are crazy. I lean towards Alexander Gustafsson. I just didn't like what I saw with Fabricio Werdum against Alexei Oleinik. He looked like out of shape, and his cardio wasn't there. I think if his cardio wasn't there against Gustafsson can have some success in the second and third round. the big question is, what will Gustafsson look like now? He's coming out of retirement, he's moving up to heavyweight. I don't really know if I love the heavyweight move. He didn't look like a mascot light heavyweight. He was submitted by Anthony Smith, so there's a possibility for Werdum submits him. I just think Gustafsson will be able to keep him. I don't think this fight goes a distance, though. I think if Werdum wins, it's going to be a submission win. If Gustafsson wins, he's going to knock out Werdum. I'll favor Gustafsson to get the knockout, but the only bet you can make on this fight is taking the underdog. There's no way you can lay this kind of money on Gustafsson coming back.
Yeah, the odds don't make sense to me, guys. I don't get it. Like, why is everyone so confident in Gustafsson in this fight? He's a guy who's retired, twice now. He hasn't fought in a year. He had a really poor performance against Smith in his last fight. Also got knocked out by Jones before. I mean, obviously, you can discount that loss because look who he lost to. But he hasn't won a fight since May 2017 when he beat Glover. He was in amazing form in that fight. He destroyed Glover. He knocked him out brutally in the 5th round. Also beat Yan that same year, or the year before that. So we all know Gus, man. We've seen him fight many times. He is great. He is a legend of the light heavyweight division. There's a lot of question marks about him, though, especially moving to heavyweight on kind of this weird match against Werdum, who's – I know he's 42. I know he looked terrible against Olenek. I know he hasn't won a fight since 2017, November 2017. He actually has a more recent win against Tabura, but Werdum's a dangerous guy. He's a big dude. He's got knockout power. He can submit you. He's fought the best of the best, man. Look at his wins. Cain Velasquez, Big Nog, Bigfoot, Fedor, Overeem. I mean, this guy's fought the best of the best for a long time, man. He's being written off. And honestly, I really want to pick Werdum. I just can't because of the last performance. If he didn't have that fight with Olenek, I would have picked him here, Cole. I got to be honest. I would have, just because I would have thought, hey, you know what? You'll look better than that. He looked out of shape. He looked old. He looked slow. That's what I hate about him in the spot, because Gustafsson's going to be faster. He's going to be longer. He's going to be probably a little bit more just rangy. But there's a lot not to like about Gus in this spot, guys. I would not bet this fight. It's dog or pass for sure. Werdum at plus 280 is not a terrible bet, because it's a heavyweight fight, and it's a guy who's proven time and time again he's an elite guy in this division. But you have to fade him at age 42. He's turning 43 next week. You have to fade him here. I just think it's a really dangerous fight to lay this kind of juice on a guy like Gustafsson that he's not that reliable as a late call. All right, next up, co-main event, guys. Almost there. Shogun Rua against Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, the trilogy fight. They fought twice, once in Pride 2005, once in UFC 2015. Shogun won decisions both times around. This fight, I believe it's Dylan Nog's retirement fight. And Shogun, I don't think he said anything about that, but potentially it could be as well. So, two legends in the sport, and some people are wondering why this would be co-main event, but to me, it's just a respect thing, and I have no problem with that. Also, their last fight was great. It was fight of the night. All right, man. Odds right now, Cole. Shogun minus 190, Little Nog plus 165. Who's your pick?
I have Shogun Rua winning this one and going 3-0 in the trilogy. And I think for the first time, it's going to be a stoppage win. I like Rua to stop Nogueira. Nogueira's been knocked out a lot. Knocked out Ryan Bader. Ryan Spann knocked out cold. He looked good against Sam Elliott. He did knock him out, but he hasn't fought since that knock loss to Ryan Spann. I think Rua still has that power. I was looking at the Rua inside the distance is plus 105, so you get plus money on it. I think this is the fight where you finally see a finish in this one, but I just think Rua is the better fighter. I think it's going to be – he's already proved he's beat him twice. I think this third fight, I don't think anything's going to change other than he gets a knockout win this time around. Yeah,
they're both legends, and it's kind of a fun fight. I'm going to favor Shogun, too. He is a little bit younger, 38 compared to 44 for Little Nog. Little Nog's really old, one of the oldest fighters right now. Little Nog, I saw his last fight against Spain in Brazil, and he got brutally knocked out. But Cole, he's had some upsets the last couple of years, like the Sam Elliott fight, Patrick Cummins. He was the underdog in those fights. He came back and won those fights by brutal knockout. So these guys tend to stand and strike. I think this fight's going to stay on the feet. It'll be fun while it lasts. Probably doesn't go the distance this time around. I'm leaning towards Shogun, too. I think knockout, is a pretty realistic chance here. But again, Shogun's a guy that's been knocked out, too, and he's an older guy, too, Cole. So who knows? Little Nog can catch him and possibly put him away. But yeah, I think Shogun probably wins this fight by stoppage. All right, get to the last fight here, guys, and I'll get to the comments, and then we'll get out of here. All right, main event in the evening, best fight in the card, most important fight in the card. Winner, especially if it's Till, probably gets a title shot against the winner of Izzy and Costa. And right now we have Darren Till. Actually, Robert Whittaker is a slight favorite. It just depends on the book. It's basically a pick 'em though. Whittaker minus 120, Till plus 100. This fight's close, man. It's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out. Cole, I want to hear your pick.
I don't think it's as close to the odds. Like, I think Robert Whittaker is going to win this fight. I think he's going to win this fight rather easily. I just think that loss to Adesanya, you can't really. Adesanya is in a class of his own. 2 wins over Yoel Romero. I like that he took time off. I think it just helped him because he was getting rocked off, and I think that helps his chin. He said he's found that fire again, which will be good. But Darren Till, I picked him to beat Kelvin Gastelum. I think we both did. He was an underdog there, but I just think this is a 2-step up. You have Tyron Woodley that finished him. You have Jorge Miles that finished him. I think Robert Whittaker can get another stoppage win over Darren Till here. I think he's going to wrestle Darren Till. I think he's on the feet. I think he's the better striker. I think he's the harder striker. I just think he throws more volume too, where if it goes to this until edge of decision, I think Whittaker wins this fight. I think he'll win by probably 4th round stoppage.
Wow, you're way more confident in Whittaker than I am, man. I just don't see how you can be that confident, Cole. Till showed really good form in that Kelvin Gastelum fight. I'm picking Till, man. To me, like, this is a close fight. This is a super close fight, guys. I wouldn't bet on this fight. Even though I'm picking Till as a dog, I wouldn't touch it because I think it can go either way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not writing Robert Whittaker off. I have to make a pick, though, Cole. And I just think there's a few things going towards Till here. I think he's got a little bit more momentum coming into this fight. Whittaker is great, but he's had a lot of injuries the last few years. He basically fights once a year now at this point. Till is a little bit more active. Till, I think, at 185 is a great weight class for him, man. 170 was not a good weight class. Till has, I think, 1-inch reach advantage, so it's going to be close. But I think Till is a little bit bigger. The one thing that worries me is the volume. Whittaker, I think, does throw more volume if you look at the stats. And Whittaker's dangerous, man. I mean, he does have legitimate knockout power, and his ground game is a little bit underrated as well. But coming off the knockout loss to Adesanya, I question how durable his chin's going to be in this fight. And Till is a big boy. He does have some knockout power at times. I don't know if it goes the distance or not. It's hard to say. It could go 5 rounds. The fight with Thompson did go 5 rounds, so maybe this one does as well. But, yeah, it's a close fight. I just slightly lean towards Till. We'll take some comments here. Andre, what's up, guys? What's going on, man? He likes Rob too, but Kenshiro likes Till. So we'll see what happens. Damon says Werdum looked like garbage in his last fight. He did, but so did Gus. So I don't like those odds. Big boy Gustafsson will become a true Viking this Saturday. Bath and Werdum weak blood. That's funny. Kenshiro, gorilla size Till will be hard to knock out. Robert isn't known the instant KO. Power guy to lay big belly Till down. I think Till's durability is going to go way up at 185. I know he got knocked away by Masvidal and got submitted by Woodley, but I think at 185 will be better. We'll see what happens, though. I mean, he could easily lose this fight. I'm not confident by any means. I'm just surprised how confident you are calling Robert Whittaker. I just don't see why you'd be so confident in him, man, coming off the loss to Adesanya. Like, and even the Romero fight, he got hurt bad in that fight. Took a lot of damage, a lot of injuries. We'll see what happens. He could easily win. I think for the division, though, it's probably better if Till wins. I will say that. I think you could agree with that. Let's get to a few fight announcements, Cole, and then we'll get out of here, man. I don't want to keep you too long. Izzy and Costa just mentioned it. Looks like it's going to happen at UFC 253. I know you talked to Valid. Is that fight close to being confirmed now?
Yeah, both fighters signed. That's what Valid said. He said they both signed. I don't think the UFC want it to be announced yet, just because I think they're still kind of waiting on Habib, and I don't think it was a good look for them to get out. But Dana White only gets mad at fight announcements when it's something that gets announced. Like we saw him when Ariel leaked Brock Lesnar, how mad he was.
Yeah.
I think this fight's done. Waleed said both guys signed. Costa was even tweeting about it. So I think it's going to happen, but I can see why Dana White was probably mad, because they probably wanted to give Habib more time to see if he was going to fight September and then maybe push them back to that October card.
Yeah, that's going to be a great fight. And the odds right now, they have... Well, it's close. I mean, Adesanya minus 160, Costa plus 130, so pretty competitive. Obviously, Adesanya is a slight favorite here, but man, I don't know. This is another tough fight to call.
I don't know who I'm picking in that one yet.
Oh, yeah, either.
I think it's someone's getting knocked out.
I don't think there's no way that fight goes 5 rounds. No way. I doubt it. Then again, I didn't think the Romero fight would either. The other fight I want to talk about quickly, Joanne Calderwood's coming back actually next week against Jennifer Maia, so an important fight at the 125-pound division. Calderwood was set to fight Shevchenko, but Valentina's hurt right now. I think she has a knee injury. She's going to be out for a little while. I can't blame Jojo for taking another fight, man. I actually think it's a great idea. Stay sharp, stay ready. And stylistically, this is a good fight for her, I think, against Jennifer Maia, who I think is a pretty durable fighter, pretty experienced. I just feel like Joanne could probably just grind a decision out, Cole, and honestly just make an easy paycheck here. I favor her quite a bit in this fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think even if she loses, then it makes the UFC's decision a lot easier who gets the next title shot. Just go Cynthia Calvillo, here you go.
No, I still think Cynthia probably should get it personally. If I was the matchmaker, I'd give it to her. It's hard to rip away a title shot from someone who already got it, but who knows? Maybe that's what's going on too. Maybe the UFC's like, we're going to wait for Valentina and then give her Cynthia. But I think if Joanne wins, it'd be hard to deny her. She does get the win in this fight. Jennifer Maia, by the way, 2-2 in the UFC, coming off a loss to Caitlin Chookagian. She could jump back in title contention with this win, but I don't know if she gets it done. And just looking at maybe some news really quickly, Cole. I'm gonna get out of here, but Gilbert Burns is COVID free, so that's great to hear. Gilbert Burns will be taking on Kamaru Usman later this year. No idea when. September's done with that pay-per-view. I believe there's 2 pay-per-views for October. So I think Usman versus Burns makes sense as one of those cards, headlining that card. Burns loves staying active. Usman doesn't love to be super active by any means, but I think he'll take that fight in October if the UFC needs him to take it. Be a good fight. I think that Usman was the favorite, like minus 200 before the betting odds closed when Burns got scrapped from the card. So I expect Usman to be probably an even bigger favorite now after being Masvidal, but that's a good fight call. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what's going on with Woodley and Covington. A lot of people are asking about that. It seems like Colby signed his side of the deal and Woodley wants to fight at a later date. I know you talked to Dan Lambert. You'll plug that later, Cole, but is that fight close to being done at this point? Or
no, I think Woodley wants September.
Sorry, Dan's not even with Colby anymore. Yeah. So we don't really know what's going on with that at this point, but it probably does get done. UFC likes that matchup. And man, I don't get it, but Dana White, again, not saying that Aljo's getting that title shot 135. I feel like Cody might slip it and get it, Cole. I know he's saying 125 now, but I think if the UFC wants Cody to fight for the belt against Yan, it's a good fight. It's a fun fight. I don't think it makes sense necessarily, but would you be surprised they did that, Cole?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I love Aljo though. He's great. Marias is another guy. Should get a little bit more love. What else? Dana's still saying that Habib's going to fight by the end of the year, and so is Ali. So we'll see. I mean, they're both kind of, I think, being really optimistic about that. If I'm Khabib, I'd probably take the rest of the year off. But that's not. It's up to him. It's really his call. Maybe he wants to get back in there and just forget what's going on right now. All right, let's get to a few comments here, guys, and we'll get out of here. Andre, do you feel this is a must-win fight for Rob? Yes and no. I mean, he's still relatively young at age 29. He's still an elite guy. But if he wants to really stay in that title mix right now, he needs to get the win. What do you think, Cole?
I don't think it is. I think he's still young enough where he can bounce back. I don't know. I think the UFC probably is hoping he loses because I think they can get more. Till versus Adesanya would be a bigger fight than an Adesanya Whittaker rematch.
Yeah. Damon says he's got Till as well, and he says Rob didn't look dangerous at all last time out. I mean, that was against Izzy, though, so gotta keep that in mind. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a close fight. Eduardo Flores, what's going on, man? Old parting shot listener. Do you have any news on Lebanese heavyweight Charbel Diab? He trained with Edmund and is undefeated. You know about this guy, Cole?
No.
Let me check him out here. 4-0. He's from Lebanon. He is 4-0 with 4 wins by knockouts. I don't know about this guy now, I'll be honest. He hasn't fought in over a year, though. Hopefully Ali signs him because then he'll get in the UFC. So that's what he needs to do right now. He needs Ali to be his representative. Last question here, Andre. Where does Max go after that loss to Alex? It's such a good question. Like I said, it reminds me of Edgar and Benson Henderson. Benson winning 2 close fights and then Edgar kind of being muffed out of that division at the time, 155. He went down to 145. I don't think there's as clear of a path for Max. He can't go to 135, obviously. 155 is possible, though. So we'll see what happens. He's still one of the best guys in the world, but it might take a few months off, man. He's been fighting so much the last few years. Like, I think it's caught up to him a little bit. But he did look great, I thought, in the last fight. So what are your thoughts, Cole?
I think he fights Calvin Kattar.
Yeah. Oh, you think so? Yeah, see that fight, man. That'd be a fun one. Yeah, you interviewed Calvin after the fight? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants that fight too, right? So that'd be a fun one. Eduardo Flores. Who should be next for Kiesi? Wants a top 5 guy, but Neal wants to fight him. Jeff Neal, bro, it really makes me sad that Jeff Neal, I was in Vegas last December when he knocked out Mike Perry. He hasn't fought since. That's sad. That doesn't make sense, Cole. It just doesn't make sense. Like, there's got to be somebody who can fight in the top 10 or top 15. Like, come on, get this guy a fight, man. As far as Chiesa goes, right now he's ranked number 8. I can't remember if he said Damian Maia. I think he mentioned at one point, or Colby Covington. He said he wanted. He won't fight Covington, but Damian Maia would be a fun fight goal against Chiesa. I don't know if Damian Maia's going to get a fight again though at this point. Maybe one more fight. Any thoughts on Chiesa?
I don't think Chiesa's this far where he's probably gonna have to fight down. Like, if you just look who's above him, Damian Maia, I don't know if he's gonna fight. Stephen Thompson, I can't see him taking the fight. Woodley's kind of matched with Covington. Masvidal, Edwards, Burns are not gonna fight him. So I think the only one above him that possibly would fight him is Damian Maia, but who knows if Maia's gonna get a fight.
I agree. All right, Cole. I think that's it for today, guys. Really appreciate you guys tuning in as always. I know that Ken Sure asked about Bellator earlier. I'm not doing that today. I'm going to do it on Friday. We talked way too much today, guys. It's a 15 fight breakdowns. That's enough. I'll save Bellator for Friday. But yeah, it's nice that Bellator's back and nice there's odds as well. All right, that's it for today, Cole. I want you to plug all your stuff, man.
Twitter @ColeShot91. The podcast BG Pen's up. It's Dan Lambert, Peter Spoda, Ricky Bandejas. Stories up with all them. Stories up with Jesse Ronson as well. Fighter picks for Whittaker Till, and then everything else always on my Twitter.
Awesome, man. Definitely check that out, guys. Cole's doing a great job with that podcast at BJ Penn. Let's help grow Cole grow his podcast as well. And this one too, guys. You know, I really more subscriptions. Like, we're trying our best, honestly. Like, we're grinding. I know there's a lot of MMA podcasts out there. I think me and Cole do a great podcast though, and I think that, you know, it should be a little bit bigger than it is. So that's my personal thoughts. Obviously, I'm biased since I am hosting the show, but I think we do a solid show, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at @MMAdamMartin, and I'm available at MMAoddsbreaker.com, BJPenn.com, MMAratings.net. And check me out there and all the stuff I'm posting. And I said I'll be back Friday for the next podcast. Cole, I really appreciate you joining me today and to break down this card. You'll be back with me next Tuesday to break down that card back at supposedly the UFC Apex. So Holly Holm, Irene Aldana, that's next Tuesday. But until then, guys, have a great rest of the week, and I'll be back on Friday to break down the tour.